Drunk Tank, Rhea O'Connor, by EmpyRealInvective. Dear Gabriel, let me preface this by saying how sorry I am. When I first felt you kick within me, I knew you would be strong. It didn't matter what they told me or what I saw. I knew you were strong when you clenched my finger in your hands. I knew that you would be a shining beacon of light in this world. You grasped my finger so tight that I was certain that it would break under the pressure. We had suffered so much, so many indignities. I was sure that you would live up to your name. I was right. You were strong. You were the strongest child I'd ever met. I feel like I have to tell you about how you came to be. You deserve that much. You were a miracle. I never assumed that I was ready for children. Whenever the topic came up, I always explained that I wasn't prepared for that responsibility. How could I care for such an innocent thing when I couldn't even care for myself? I was still a baby myself, and unable to bear the responsibilities of being both a child and a parent. I always told myself that I wasn't ready for any of this. But in the end, it wasn't me who chose the time. It was God. He wasn't the prince I had always hoped for. He didn't hold me close to him when the time came. He didn't kiss away my tears when he pressed himself into me. He didn't make me feel safe. He didn't make me feel warm. He didn't make me feel loved. He only filled me with an aching that still resounds inside me. He didn't hold me close. He only held me down when the time came. He withdrew from me, and I only felt emptiness. I won't lie, when he left, I tried to scrape you out of me. I desperately poured and tried to dig you out. It wasn't your fault, it was mine. I couldn't stand the fact that at the very end of things, I wouldn't remember much about my first time. At the very end of things, I wouldn't want to tell you about your father. The only things I knew about him was that he was harsh, and he smelled saccharine sweet, like fermented fruits. You didn't deserve to hear that. You were innocent and pink. None of this was your fault. So every night I held my stomach and felt you turn and twist in my embrace. I told you sweet stories. I told you that your father was a sweet and compassionate man. I told you that he would teach you how to be strong. I told you that he would be here. Not the actual man, but someone better. Someone you deserved to have. I lied. In the end, there was no one except you and I. The people who had vowed to support me drifted apart after the first sign that something was wrong. I tried to hide the stomach aches and discomfort, but once the symptoms were there, they knew what they had to do. I wasn't the person that they had wanted. I wasn't their salvation. You weren't their salvation. You weren't going to be a shining beacon rising from this tainted world unaffected. That was fine. It didn't matter to me that you weren't perfect. You were in me, and that was all that mattered. I carried you for the next couple of months and tried to keep you safe. I tried to avoid alcohol when I could, but towards the end I realized that I had no choice. There was nothing left in the world, and our only option was to eat what we could. It was bitter, and every bite reminded me that I was hurting you. I hoped that you would be strong enough to adjust to this new world, but with each passing day, I knew that that wasn't true. I held you within me until I grew gravid. I felt you struggle to break free into the world, but I kept you inside me. I wanted a few more moments to keep you all to myself. You were a bright beacon, and I wanted that light all to myself. I don't regret my decision. I pressed you into myself and felt your warmth and light suffuse my core. You are my hope and light. That light died a few weeks later. Stomach pains became more frequent, and excuses began to dry up like water in a drought. I held tight to the belief that you were a miracle. You weren't just a child. You were the salvation of our future. The one who wouldn't be affected by this tainted world. They didn't see it. As the issue persisted, they slowly abandoned me. They knew what was coming and they couldn't bear to watch it happen again. You decided to make your light known at the most inopportune time. I was only a few miles from the nearest town where my water broke. My first reaction was to foolishly press the liquid back into me as if it would stall the process. It didn't, and as I watched the amniotic trickle through my fingers, I realized that your time had come and that you would greet the world out in the wilderness. I lay down and hiked up my legs. I had no idea what I was doing, but it didn't matter. I fortified myself with the conclusion that you would be strong enough for the both of us. I prayed that you would not be a breached birth, and you answered my prayers. You came gently, and my intoxication numbed any pain I would have felt. It took 3 hours for you to emerge into this world. You brightened it up the moment you arrived. You darkened it 15 minutes later when you passed away. You didn't come into this world crying like a normal child. You were quiet. I pulled you towards me and felt your umbilical cord press against my stomach as I held you close. It was cold. You were colder than you should have been. Your eyes were so close together it almost seemed as if you had a third eye in the middle of your face. There was a hole there through which I could see your final moments. Your eyes had not developed and your nose was little more than a bump above your lip. You struggled to breathe. I held you close to me and sang to you in your final moments. I sang songs my mother used to sing to me as a child. I sang sweet, saccharine songs as you fought to breathe in my embrace. You wanted to persevere so much that you continued to living for much longer than you should have. I held you even after you became cold. I held you as you turned blue. I held you as I dug your grave and laid you to rest. I still hold on to you even to this day. I will never let go. Gabriel, you are my one and only child, and I will never let you be forgotten. I survived the birth, although I shouldn't have. I staggered into town with blood and amniotic fluid dribbling down my thighs. They managed to save me and get me the transfusion I desperately needed and patched me up. I spent a few weeks convalescing in their care. The smart ones kept their mouths shut and didn't ask me questions or tell me I was lucky to be alive. I wasn't lucky. I wasn't alive. I left as soon as I could. I gave no reasons for leaving them and they made no attempt to stop me. I wasn't their ilk and they weren't mine. I walked away and pressed on into this cruel world. This world had become wormwood, and I was another one of its many victims. We were slowly dying, and nothing we could do would change that. I called you strong earlier. I was right. You were strong. You were strong enough to realize that you didn't belong in this world. You were strong enough to realize that this wasn't where you belonged. You had the fortitude to leave, even if it meant hurting me in the process. I was right when I gave you your name. You were Gabriel. God is my strength. You were strong enough to realize that this wasn't your world. You were strong enough to realize that your only place was by God's side. He called you to him and you followed. It's true that you left me, but it's also true that you are by God's side. There isn't much left, right? But goodbye. Goodbye, Gabriel. I love you with all my heart. Rhea O'Connor. Dear Gabriel, let me start all of this by telling you how sorry I am. You are the light of the new world, and I should have let you shine. Instead, I kept you within me. I'm sorry, but after hearing all of this, you must surely forgive me. Dozens of similar letters have been discovered, from multiple sites all throughout the Midwest. They all start and end differently, but other than that, they are virtually identical. The nature and content of the letters has led to many people passing around stories of having found them tucked under dolls and stuffed into empty baby bassinets. These letters have given rise to a new urban legend. On a dark night, the most intoxicated will attest to seeing a woman walking on the abandoned roads shortly after having read or heard about one of these letters. They say that she walks the roads, seeking her lost child. They say that the self-inflicted wounds on her wrist drip a blood that looks almost black in the moonlight. That is their horror story. They do not realize that the truth is much more terrifying. The woman is not dead. She is not a ghost in the traditional sense that haunts the world. She is still alive, in a way. She continues to walk the roads, and every reflective moment is devoted to the child she lost years ago. The toxic land only serves to send her spiraling back into those moments. She is trapped in a cycle of intoxication, constantly reliving the memory of the child she lost. She holds him to this very day. She will hold him to the very end, even though he is weighing her down.